Apex Legends Split 2 has just begun, and I figured with that it would be the perfect time to give you all a few tips to help you better succeed at ranked Apex Legends. This guide's gonna be mainly for those solo warriors out there trying to queue their way to Masters. So if this applies to you and you're an average player, maybe even above average player, this guide is gonna be for you. And with that, guys, here's 5 tips to help you succeed at ranked Apex Legends as a solo player. I've been bringing you guys along for this series since I started earlier this season, and if you haven't checked out either of the first 2 episodes, feel free to do so. The thumbnails are on screen and the links will be in the description below. And of course, guys, if these tips are helpful and you like this video, or if you just want to support me, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We have lots of content going up every week. We try to do 2 to 4 videos a week depending on the week. The very first tip I want to discuss is not even when you're down on the ground, but it's when you're picking your legend in the very beginning of the game. Choosing the right legend will help you rank up much faster than choosing a poor legend. And there's 3 legends I want you to be considering. Legend 1, and the number 1 pick for this season, for me at least, is Bloodhound. And the main reason behind that, guys, is that Bloodhound's scan ability will automatically give you an assist point if you're trying to grind out points. And this is crazy because you could scan an entire team or 2 teams, and if those enemies are getting killed by your team, you're going to get an easy assist point even if you don't shoot them. So that's legend number 1. Legend number 2 for me, honestly, is Rampart. And this kind of goes with what I'm going to talk about later with how you're playing. But Rampart is a great defensive character, and honestly, if you're an average player or slightly above average player, you're probably not going to be pushing teams a lot. So having her barriers at the end game situation can be extremely helpful. So definitely don't sleep on Rampart this season. The 3rd legend I want to recommend is Gibraltar. And really, I picked Gibraltar mainly because he has lots of health and he can absorb a lot of damage. On top of that, his ult is pretty good at endgame scenarios, and he has that bubble, which is also clutch for making rotations. So those are the 3 legends I want you to consider taking. Bloodhound for sure, and then Rampart or Gibraltar. Moving on from selecting your legend and now dropping, tip number 2 is to land smart. And when I say land smart, that does not mean landing far away in the middle of nowhere where you get no loot and you have nothing when you finally get a fight, but rather you want to land somewhere that might not be quite extremely hot, but you want to land somewhere where you're going to have the most success with the most loot, but also having maybe one team to fight at the same time. And the reason behind this is if you land too far, like I just said, you're going to land somewhere probably where the loot might not be optimal, and you're not going to have anything when you do get into that first fight or that first engagement, because if that first team that you find has already wiped a team, maybe 2 teams, maybe 3 teams, they're going to be fully stacked, ready to go, and you might still have a white shield and maybe not the greatest guns. You don't want to land too hot, because if you land really hot, you're in a high risk scenario where you or maybe your teammates, you might not get the gun you want, you might get outplayed early on in the beginning. You want to have that 50-50 be more on your side, where you're going to have more control over what you're going to be getting on the ground and going into your first engagement. Of course, landing hot is a good thing sometimes, it gives you practice, but this is what pubs are for, not ranked, in my opinion. So if you can land somewhere where there's an equal amount of good loot and maybe one team to fight, this is going to give you a much better scenario to get some early points and to give you better loot early on in the beginning of the game. Don't forget that you only need 5 kills or assist points to max out those points that you'll get that game. And this really isn't that much. This isn't even 2 full teams. And if you're running Bloodhound, you really only got to scan a couple people and get a couple kills, and you're going to be maxed on those kill and assist points. So you don't need to be overly aggressive in a ranked game if you're just trying to grind for points. Moving on to talk about tip number 3, and tip number 3 is the one thing you don't really have control over, and that is to stick with your teammates. Your teammates are crucial to you getting more points in Apex Legends ranked mode, and if you want to get to Masters, you gotta be not necessarily on top of your teammates, but you need to be with them a lot of the time. You need to land near them, you need to ping often, and you need to listen to what they're saying, and you need to watch where they're going. And this honestly is because if you're in a ranked scenario, especially when you hit the platinum to diamond, and I imagine in Masters, you're going to get completely swamped by a stack of 3 people that are all talking and communicating together. And if you're not talking to your random teammates, you're going to be at a much bigger disadvantage than a team that is playing together. So the very first tip I can give you is to make sure you're picking your character every time. This will give you a higher percentage chance of being the jump master. And if you're the jump master, you can also choose where you're going. And this goes right back with our tip number 2, where if you're the jump master, you get to choose where you're landing. If you're not the jump master, you want to ping a spot right away to see if your teammates are on board. If your teammates are going somewhere where you think is not a good place to go, I think you still should be dropping with them. You gotta stick with them. You'll never win a ranked game if your teammates are dying early and then you're left all alone. So tip number 3, stick with your teammates, listen to them, and be as helpful as possible to them. Give them shields if they need it, give them health if they need it. Just be a good teammate, and I'm sure they will reciprocate right back to you. Tip number 4 is for you aggressive players, and that is to don't overextend yourself. There's a lot of times when I'm playing ranked mode and I'm by myself and I'm playing like it's a pub match. I'm pushing everyone, and this is quite bad in a ranked scenario where if you're in the mindset of you want to push, you're gonna honestly be at a little bit of a detriment to your teammates and yourself. If you're running into a team and you're pushing them without your teammates being coordinated, you could easily get wiped in a 3-on-1 scenario, especially if you're chasing someone towards like an end game scenario. You might be chasing them, you might not realize you're pushing not even into their team, but you're gonna be pushing in the open where another team or another 2 teams could be shooting at you, and you're gonna get absolutely lasered. So tip number 4, do not overextend yourself. But at the same time, guys, I can't stress enough, do not act scared. You don't want to be scared to take a fight, because no action honestly is worse just doing anything. If you're going to improve, you're going to improve from overextending. You're not going to improve from underextending or doing nothing. So tip number 4, don't overextend yourself. Be smart about what you're pushing, see what your teammates are doing, and you will give yourself the best chance to succeed at an end game scenario. And the final tip, and tip number 5 that I want to give you guys, is what weaponry you're using. I suggest you are always taking a medium to long range weapon. So this means you should almost always be taking something like the longbow, the triple take, the G7. I'd even throw the flatline kind of in there as a hybrid gun. The hemlock is a great medium to long range weapon. And I say this because you want to have something that you can shoot at people from a distance. You want to be able to level your Evo shield with the minimum amount of risk involved, and a hemlock or a triple take will definitely give you this scenario to help you level up your shields. And also, if you're more of a defensive player and if you're at an end game scenario, you might be able to honestly get a pick with a medium range weapon, which is huge. That's another kill or assist that you can get onto those kill or assist points. And you're going to be really annoying, honestly, if you're shooting at someone with a medium range, say like a hemlock. If you're peppering them like 20 at a time, it can be really frustrating because you got to sell after every hit like that. But do not take 2 long range guns, and don't take 2 close range guns. You want to have something like a prowler with a hemlock, or a prowler with a triple take, or a volt with a triple take. I'd also kind of consider the wingman like a in between, because you can shoot the wingman at a little bit farther ranges even though it is a pistol. So something like a volt and a wingman would work. Just be smart about what weapons you're taking. Take a medium to long range weapon. It's going to help you out a lot with a minimum amount of risk. And that is tip number 5. Take a medium and a short range weapon. It'll help you out a ton. And guys, those are 5 tips to help you succeed in Apex Legends ranked mode. If you made it this far, I'm gonna try something out here. Drop a comment down below and put a little smiley face at the end of your comment, and that'll give me a little trigger saying you made it this far in the video. Guys, thank you so much. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Your support has been awesome lately. We're almost at 100 YouTube subscribers, which is insane. I never thought I would ever be doing this. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you so much. Peace out, everyone. Say about that, bro.
Patching myself up. Throwing out stuff. Ring aim far.
Come on, team.